sky, shining like diamonds, makes no difference in die, 'cause they never wonder why.
Hey guys, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Figured I'd make a video this week. I wasn't really sure if I was going to or not, like I mentioned previously, because I'm going to be taking a little field trip down to Kansas City, and I haven't been there in about 2 years, so kind of interested to see what's all in selection for my taste. And I've only really went to a couple shops kind of in the outskirts of the city. I've never really been like in the heart of Kansas City, so kind of interested to see what's out there this time around. And I'm definitely going to Lawrence, Kansas as well. They got one of the best record shops I've ever been to, man. Love Garden Sounds. Great selection and great prices. Theoretically I usually go in to these shops with kind of a frame of mind like how much I'm going to spend, but for these guys I can come out with like 5 really awesome titles. I've come out with reissues for $12 that sell for like 30 and up online, and it's amazing shop. If you ever happen to go through Lawrence, Kansas, check out Love Garden Sounds. It's really definitely the best spot I've ever been to in the Midwest, at least. So anyways, got a few things here, kind of a varied mixed bag. Most of these 4 LPs I picked up from the spring Omaha record show, and I haven't gone to a record show since like pre-COVID days, so it's been a long time, 2019. So it's kind of surprising to me. It's funny to me that I only picked out 4 LPs and really only one of them didn't really need that much, but just wasn't finding a whole lot, I guess, for myself. But I picked a few up for my college buddy that was with me, so kind of gave him a few tips on things to pick up. We saw a reissue of July. I was like, you need this. And I think we can all agree July is kind of an essential psychedelic piece, artifact from the time period. So yeah, so we're going to start off a little, I think we're going to do this a little backwards just because these two are related. But so 4 from the record show and then 2 online purchases. Starting with this first one, which is an online purchase. I can't remember if this came out last year or early this year. I guess I forgot to look it up, but I don't know, the copyright says 2022, and I think I waited on this a while, so it might have been out since last year. But picked up the reissue of Andromeda. This is a classic heavy prog hard rock record, featuring, of course, John Ducan. This is a trio, and basically formed out of the 5 Day Week Straw People out of the UK. So I'm going to put these records down. They're still on my lap. Yeah, Gearson reissuing this one. You bet I'm going to pick up on it. They've been putting out some heat lately, especially this year. And I just ordered another one from them, which should be here shortly. But yeah, this is classic, man. I really love this one. This is probably my favorite of the John Ducan projects he's been involved with. Shortly after this, he'd be with Atomic Rooster, Hard Stuff, amongst many other little side projects. I love the whole sound of this record. It's got kind of a doomy vibe. It's got very progressive rock movements on here, but also because there's like 3 main pieces on here that kind of go into 3 different segments. Even the standalone tracks without the little fragments, pieces like Too Old, Day of the Change, they kind of add these little introductions and like other little pieces that all kind of flow together, and they're really good at like chord changes, chord progressions. They'll switch it up in a heartbeat. You think they're going to go in one direction, and they kind of twist it a little bit and go somewhere else. It might take a few listens to latch on to kind of what they're doing, but definitely rewarding in the end. So definitely trust Gearson for their reissues, and I'll try to get this in the frame. Every time I do this, you can never read it, but see if it comes in or not. This has liner notes, somewhere in this pile. Yeah, Gearson, man, they're my favorite reissue label. Got some nice liner notes here, some promotional ads. They did get very limited promotion at the time, but in my honest opinion, I think this could have been at the same heights as, like, you know, say Led Zeppelin. It's that good of quality for sure. They even toured with, you know, what was to become Led Zeppelin, the New Yardbirds, at the time, and toured. I think they did a gig with Sabbath. I think they opened for them. And it's kind of a hybrid between, you know, not so much the bluesy side of Zeppelin, but more of like the hard rock style of Sabbath maybe, but not as doomy. But there is like a doomy moment or two, you know, sort of those kind of sinister chords they use. But yeah, got it on black wax. When I ordered this on Discogs, it was under the black wax edition, but I got the orange instead. And I'm not, you know, there's a whole controversy about colored vinyl, and my whole thing is, if I have to get on colored vinyl, I'll stick with it if I have to, but I'm kind of a standard black wax kind of guy. I love my black vinyl. Not to say the sound quality is bad, especially from this label, but I really, there's something about seeing a black record on the turntable that appeals to me more than like a bright orange vinyl. I don't know. I'm just weird that way, and we all have our quirks, you know? So, Andromeda, classic. And most of these are actually some of the records I'm going to be posting on Instagram hopefully this week. We'll see if I get through the week with posting them while I'm away, but so I showed that one first because I picked this up at the record show. This is Hard Stuff, Bulletproof. I was kind of debating on this the first time around. I kind of looked at it once and then returned back to it like 10 minutes later. I thought, yeah, I'll scoop it up. Yeah, it'd been a long time since I listened to this, but my impression was I do remember liking it, but there were a few moments that were kind of on the bluesy side, and it was kind of a more commercial approach, and that's definitely the case. There's a few tracks on here that really remind me of like that early Foghat sound, which does not appeal to me nearly as much, but the fact John Ducan's on it, he's just kind of a master guitarist, had to pick it up. And I had never seen a copy in person, so this is an original UK pressing on purple label. Get a shot of the label here. And there is one really nasty mark on this, but he says it played through, and it does. You can't hear it at all. It looks really nasty, but see how it comes in there? Yeah, it's kind of a nasty mark, but yeah, it plays really strong though. Paid up for this a little bit, kind of about the average price, about 70 bucks, but it probably goes for a little more. I'm not real sure, but like I said, just kind of feeling it at the moment. Not sure if it's gonna stick around. It probably will, but we'll have to listen to this a little more, I think, for it to kind of sink in. But there is one killer track on here for me, Time Gambler, on side one. It's got a really crunchy guitar tone to it. I love that track. But yeah, a little more on the commercial light, but still good for sure. So glad to pick it up. This is one where I found near the end of the show. I wasn't even sure if I was going to pick this up because it wasn't like super high on the want list, but at the same time, again, I had never seen a copy of this, and you know, I'm kind of getting into imports a little more than normal. And this is a UK original pressing of Scott Walker 1. Scott. This is a mono copy, and funny enough, Omaha Introvert, Hannah, she was at the show as well, and she had shown a copy of this on Instagram. She had found at the record show, or not Instagram, YouTube, and was saying how she found a copy there as well. So there was two of these there, and I was kind of surprised how long this lasted there too, because I was near the end of the show. You know, I was about 2.5 hours in, and this was still there. So I got a great deal on this. It was like 25 bucks. Yeah, man. So, you know, it's a vocal pop of the highest order. I can still remember the first time I heard Scott Walker. I heard the track Amsterdam. It was on psychedelicized radio. I don't know if anybody's ever streamed that. I don't even know if they're still going or not, but they play a whole colossal mix of different things from like the 60s and stuff. But they played the Amsterdam track, and I just remember hearing his voice. It's like a very hard-edged baritone voice. Got that really husky kind of sound, but also kind of romanticized at the same time. Like very unique, kind of on the cusp of like, kind of artsy in a way, sort of approach to the style of this music, with the delivery of his voice, being backed up with a bunch of strings, very orchestral led. But there's also tracks like Always Coming Back to You, which I recognize as like a Panda Bear. Panda Bear sampled that track, I should say, for his track Take Pills from Person Pitch. It's kind of a cool little discovery. Angelica, Matilda. Yeah, there's some great tracks on here. Not really one week track. This just kind of flows along, and he's a very versatile artist too. He's had a very prolific career. He's went from vocal pop, teaming up with his brothers, but also getting a little more experimental, like I think like the late 70s, I think, and even up till the day he passed away with whatever that one record's called, Bish Bosh or whatever. I've only listened to samples of it, and it's artistic, that's for sure, man. Definitely an artistic approach to a lot of his stuff. And half the album at least is like cover songs, so it's kind of always interesting when you see artists do their own variations on tracks like that. But I also picked this one up, so getting to know another guy, another collector in Omaha by the name of Tommy. He's been contacting me through Instagram, kind of chatting a little bit, and he had sold some stuff to Grapefruit Records that I picked up on as well, and bought this one from him. This is the Sundowners, Captain Nemo. It's kind of a one-off offshoot from Decca label. And I was saying to someone, I think, Derek Higgins was next to me as well, and I was telling him, I've been trying to find a clean copy of this, and I think this is finally the copy, because I think I'd seen like 2 or 3 other copies every time I've been to the record show, and they're always really poor condition, but they want like $25 for it, and this one was right in the saddle for me, man. This is really good. So it's primarily kind of a hybrid of like sunshine pop mixed with kind of this progressive pop sound. They got like a lot of progressive ideas, but I'm not really sure if all of them work. And I'm saying that kind of as a generalization, not just, for what I like on this, but it's almost like they can't really decide which direction to go in sometimes, There'll be some really classy, sort of Beatlesque sunshine pop, but then they throw on all these elements of like almost a whole collage of sounds, almost over the top in a way, kind of grandiose sort of sound. But I don't know, it works for me. I find some great tracks on here. Blue Green Eyes features like all of those elements, all thrown in one bag. What was the other one? Title track's pretty good. And then the track Always You. It's kind of one of the more catchy tunes on here. I think there's maybe 2 variations of that track. But it's a very nice slice of, harmony-driven sunshine pop. So these guys were based out of New York State as well. And they were featured on an episode of The Flying Nun. If you guys remember that show with Sally Field. There's a clip online on YouTube. It's kind of funny. I don't know what track that is. It must be some unreleased track, but they're saying all these like these kind of trippy words like freak out, trippy, wow, all these kind of cliche sort of things, these key words. And Sally Field was not impressed with their show, but it was like, this is awesome, and the show's like almost poking fun at it. I don't know. Cool clip regardless, but... And then the final one from the record show, this one might be the most controversial of the picks, and I'll get to the reason why, but this is a reissue I picked up of The Wizards from Kansas. I got a great deal on this. I think it had like 12 bucks on it. I offered 10 and picked it up for that. So I think these reissues are even going for like 40, 50 bucks now. It's a pretty sought after record. Also based from Lawrence, Kansas, funny enough. So where do I begin with this? So I don't know if I love this record enough to go out of my way to buy an original copy, but over the years I've had a little trouble getting into this one. And I know that's kind of a, I'm kind of in the minority when it comes to that, but because this is a pretty well-renowned, classic acid rock, sort of a West Coast sounding record of its ilk, but I don't know. For me, it took a long time for the style to like kind of grip onto it. The whole first side is very, very much a slow burn. And there's two cover songs on here, High Flying Bird and Codyne, which are classic tracks, but the way they do them, I mean, there is heavy guitar on it, but I feel like they kind of drag out a little too long and they're a little long-winded for me. I don't know. Very much a slow burn, that's for sure. But once you get to side 2, they do pick up a little bit more, a little more rhythmic, a little more progressive per se. Tracks like Fly Away Days, which I almost prefer the original cut on the archival release they made called Still in Kansas. It's on Rockadelic Records. Features like alternate takes, and I think maybe a couple that weren't on the record on this one. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm pretty much gelling with this one as far as like right now, but I'm glad I picked it up for 10 bucks regardless. I mean, that's definitely a tolerable price, but as far as me liking it, it's about average for me. I don't go over the moon for it like a lot of people do. It is a nice slab of music on here, that's for sure, but I don't know. There's just so many more West Coast flavored bands that I could get into than this one. We like what we like, right? I always got to be honest and transparent with you guys about what I'm picking up, and I'm not totally poo-pooing it. I'm saying I think a lot of people will enjoy this, but for me it's just I can almost fall asleep to the version of Codyne. But there are some cool sounds within, that's for sure. I mean, they definitely touch on influences of like Spirit, Quicksilver Messenger Service, the likes of that, a little touch of like Mighty Baby's Jug of Love, perhaps. It's very much in that kind of rural sound as well. So, I do support Lawrence, Kansas, and I think the album cover maybe I had too much of high hopes for it. Looking at the cover and the whole art design, the band name, it just didn't live up to the hype, I guess, that I was expecting out of this. So, but I do like it. This is going to be a keeper though, for sure. I'm very glad I still picked it up. So, and then this final one here, this is one I picked up overseas actually, because there were no copies in the US, and was really digging it months back in March, I think, or maybe April now. I think we're into April. I'm catching up. But this is a reissue, Time of the Last Persecution by Bill Fay. This is a sophomore LP on Duran. This is like I think it's the 2021 RSD reissue. And yes, it got a little crease there in the mail. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. Kind of sucks, but whatever. It's kind of a soft sleeve, pretty flimsy, but reissues of this are pretty hard to come by as well. And the original, you can just forget about it. It's like a $1,000 to $2,000 record, I think. But I think this is kind of maybe a little more favored than the debut record from him, which was kind of more in the Baroque vibe. This one kind of switches gears in the more singer-songwriter, folk rock realm. Maybe touches of Baroque in here, but this is a really deep record, man. As far as like the songwriting, I mean, it's top notch, and the performances too. And it's such simplistic. There's not a whole lot going on really, rhythmically or instrumentally. I mean, they all kind of float along. A little bit of distorted lead in some spots, nice piano. It's kind of optimistic when you listen to it, and just a really, really class, sophisticated release here. And you can tell this guy, maybe Bill Fay at the time was going through some pain. You can really, he touches on a lot of somber, kind of biblical passages on here. And kind of, relates that to a lot of modern world, mankind kind of problems. Someone like me that's not much of a lyric guy, but the lyrics in here are pretty deep, that's for sure. So love the Duram label. I was kind of doing a thread on my Facebook group. We all kind of shared different Duram releases. That's kind of what prompted me to do that topic. But yeah, man, this is classic. Not necessarily psychedelic, traditional psych sounds or anything. It's very much kind of stripped down. I wouldn't say depressing. It's a little more kind of on the uplifting, but kind of somber at the same time sort of sounds. But my favorite tracks, if I had some, the title track's really good. What's the other one? Tell It Like It Is. I Hear You Calling. There's some great tunes on here. Unfortunately, did not sell back in its day. And sometimes there's some moments on here where it gets really frantic too. You can just tell there's just like a lot of anger built up in the music itself. So it's a very cool slab there. So anyways, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be making any vlogs while I'm on my trip or not. If that's the case, that's the next video, which will probably come out next week maybe. But just glad I could have some time to share a few more records, kind of get caught up yet. And I think we're kind of narrowing it down slowly. I actually picked this up at a Goodwill here in Lincoln. It's not in the best shape. It does play pretty well, but most Kinks releases are pretty torched. But nice cover though. I might hang it up on my wall, just like my other ones. We'll see. But yeah, narrowing down, that's for sure. That's the rest I have to share. And actually, I would love to do a sneak peek of something, but I'll leave it down the road. Maybe 2 weeks from now. We'll see when I want to do the video, but I received a Grail in the mail, baby. And of course we all love the term Grail, right? It's kind of getting overused. I agree. But this is a true Grail for me, if I had to say so. Got it in the mail because I tipped it off in one of my past videos recently, and someone caught on to it and made me an offer, and I took that sucker. So I will be showing it very shortly, and I'm very, very excited about this one. So you can find it in my top once on Discogs video if you search that out, wherever that video is at. So very nice. Very, very pleased with the purchase as well. If you happen to see this, you know who you are. So thanks again, and we shall see you down the road.